Welcome to Front and Center Ice, presented by Rum Pure Sports. I'm your host, JC Zargo. Glad to be back at it after missing a week. I missed the boys, but I'm happy to be here. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Doing good, man. How we doing?
I got no complaints. How about you, Matty Ice?
I am doing good, boys. It's a beautiful day. We got to enjoy it before another round of snowstorms gets here on Thursday.
No doubt. I was disappointed to miss the trade talk on Thursday, and when we didn't have a show Saturday. So interested to get your guys' thoughts. You know, some teams got some new looks. What's been surprising to you? Who's kind of popped off, or a little too early for you guys to tell? I'll start with you, Matty.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to take a little bit of a wait and see approach. Obviously, we know we got Timo in New Jersey. He scored in his first game, so he looked sharp. Goss's Bears look good out in Carolina. The Wild made a bunch of depth moves, which have looked good. Klingberg looked real good the other night in Calgary, and Mojo's looked good. It's going to be interesting. The East was just literally like the Cold War. It was just like an arms race out there. It was just absolutely insane. It's going to be interesting to watch those playoff races out there because us and the guys in Discord have been talking about it a lot the last week, 10 days. It's going to be an absolute gauntlet to get through the East. It's going to be quite interesting. So, who's going to get through there unscathed too? That's the thing, is you got a lot of really good, heavy defensive teams on that East Coast that can score. It's going to be quite interesting. And I think the West is wide open. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But that would absolutely my takeaway in the East. Like a month ago, I felt pretty confident that it was going to be like a Carolina-Boston Eastern Conference Finals. I know you guys have been hot on the Devils, but now I don't know. Between New York, New Jersey, and the Islanders, I would not be surprised to see anyone come out of the East. Nade's a fine man. How about you? What's your takes away? What's your kind of outlook on the remainder of the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, first, I love what the Wild, our squad did for depth-wise. Really wish we would have got like Max Domi or one of these Yotes pieces that we were talking about pre-show. But I think the depth that they added is nice, and we just got to figure out how to score, because I'll tell you what, we can play defense with the best of them in the league, especially on home ice. And we got two very, very good goaltenders in Gus Buss, who we'll talk about tonight, seemingly be probably the highest owned goalie that we've seen in quite some time, just because of how good he's playing in the matchup. So we'll talk on that. But yeah, I mean, and then you got Fleury as the backup. So definitely interested there. And I do think Matty and I have talked about this a little bit, right? When you get there, I'm probably going to put money on the West team, whoever comes out of the West, just because whoever comes out of the East is going to literally be crawling to the finish line. Yeah. I mean, every game in the East pretty much is going to feel like the Eastern Conference Finals, feel like the Stanley Cup. So, especially if the Avs, I just saw a thing that it looks like Landeskog probably is not going to play this season, which kind of hurts them a little bit. But, I mean, if they get healthy, they have a lot of good pieces, right? And you don't want to see a healthy Avs squad after you just ran a gauntlet of the East. I still personally think Boston's the best team in the East. They made a lot of good moves to even increase their team. But don't sleep on the Islanders. Don't sleep on Jersey now. Matty and I have been huge on Jersey now. When you add a guy like Timo Meier skating next to Jack Hughes, that's a deadly combo. I'll tell you that right now. And you got Dougie Hamilton, right, which this dude was approaching 9K on the fantasy slate. So that just shows you how good he's been. I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun second half of fun playoffs for sure. We got about a month and a half left. It's crunch time now, and feel like Matty and I are rounding out our playoff run too, and we're starting to heat up here. We're going into the big boy stuff. It's nice that DraftKings finally has kept us some pretty solid contests, even though we get a taste of reality, taste of what it feels like to have a nice contest over the All-Star break. But they've been pretty solid outside of weekends. Weekends are pretty weak in general. But, yeah, no, should be fun. Should be a fun little 10-game slate here, and we'll look to bring you guys the winners.
How happy is Jesper Bratt? I wrote that in the playbook today. What a win for that guy. He's been playing next to Jack Hughes all year long, and now he gets Timo Meier. I mean, what a win for old Bratt boy.
Yeah, that's a scary line.
Call out. Go ahead, Nate.
I said that's a scary line. Jesper Bratt, Jack Hughes, and Timo Meier. I'll tell you what, Eriksson Ek has taken that line for sure. We see them. I'll tell you that right now because that's an incredibly offensively gifted line there. So yeah, it's gonna be fun for sure.
As a Ducks fan, my eyes on the other half of the standings, the bottom half, and it's been interesting to see because Chicago and Arizona, they emptied the clip. They got all their talent out of town, and they said we're playing for Bedard. So that's been interesting to see. Columbus, they're still at the very bottom, and the Ducks started doing some winning, and that's just not what I want to see. So I'm curious what you guys think. Did Chicago or Arizona do more to put themselves in a position to get that number one pick?
In my opinion, it's Chicago. It was an absolute fire sale in Chicago. I follow hockey religiously. I followed it all through college. My kids play in high school. There's very few players that I don't know who they are. And the Hawks are running out some guys that I'm looking at the line and going, who the hell is this dude? So, I mean, it's quite interesting. I think the Hawks are in full tank for Bedard mode, and I thought they were last night, and they owned my ass, and they just absolutely demolished the Sens. In my opinion, I think it's a race between Columbus and the Blackhawks. Anaheim tried to get rid of some pieces, but I think they just have too much talent. And they have so many young guys that I can't just see them going out there and, the coach telling them, I don't want you to get better, because the only way to get better is to play. I don't care how much you practice. There's something to be said for live game, experience. So in my eyes, I think it's a race for Bedard between Columbus and the Hawks.
And to your point, man, I mean, even to the casual fan, you look at Chicago and they just emptied it with getting rid of Kane and Domi, and it's just like you look at this team, it's pathetic. The stat that I pulled up earlier today to kind of explain how bad it is, Chicago now only has one player with more than 30 points. Seth Jones has 31 points. Nobody else even has 30. And then conversely, you look at Boston, and I think there's like 10 guys with 30 or more points. Like, it's a bad team.
And they're not going to bring Taves back. He's going to sit the rest of the year with that COVID illness. So, I mean, you got to think they're trying. I'm sure management last night was going, what the hell are you doing? It's 5-0 against the Sens. I'm sure they were happy about that. But
for sure. And if you want to get into the politics of it, I don't really believe the NHL will let Chicago have the number one pick, but that'll just play out how it plays out. Nate's fine. Do you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ducks have too much young talent. These young players, it's hard to tell a young guy to go out there and stop trying to make a name for himself, right? And I think the Yotes, I mean, we just talked about it. The Yotes, they're not deep anymore, but they still have three very, very good players in Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, and Barrett Hayton, who I've loved that kid all year. I just think when you have a line that can score like those guys can, it's hard to compete against a literal AHL squad in Chicago. I mean, Seth Jones isn't going to score 2 goals every night. And if he does, they're going to lose the games 4-5-2. Seth Jones is literally the only walking talent that they got left in Chicago. And he's probably pounding himself in the face right now with Domi getting shipped out of town, Patrick Kane obviously going to New York. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think it's definitely a two-headed race between Columbus and Chicago. Personally, it'd be kind of nice to see Columbus get that guy and revamp next year with Boone Jenner, Bedard, Johnny Hockey, like these guys. So it'd be pretty fun to watch these guys. And I think Columbus is a better squad than what they're showing. They're totally in full tank mode. So you add a guy like McDavid 2.0 in Bedard there, and they could be very fun. Matty and I have talked about Boone Jenner being a significantly underrated center player in general for quite some time, and you add a piece like Bedard. I mean, he's been one of the best, actually probably the best prospect since I can remember when, right, with the numbers that he's putting up. And he's not just putting those numbers up in the Pee Wee League, right? Like he's doing it no matter where he's playing, or no matter where he's going on the ice. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And sorry for your Ducks over there, Zarg. I just don't think they can tank hard enough. I mean, still got guys like Zegras and McTavish and stuff that are still going to go out there and try every time they're on the ice, right? Yeah. And I just think they're too far ahead, to be honest. I mean, they're at 50 points. Columbus is still at what, 43?
46.
46, yeah. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I don't think Chicago gets it back-to-back, but they could after the league just saw them fire sale everyone. So they might feel bad for them.
I mean, imagine Bedard between Gaudreau and Laine.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, selfishly, I want Bedard for the Ducks, but as a hockey fan, I mean, you gotta be rooting for Columbus because they will go from worst to a favorite, honestly, to win the cup. Like, if they can put it together, adding that.
I've never seen a player, even McDavid, even as touted as McDavid was when he came out, I've never seen a player with as much anticipation and hype as we have for Bedard. It's going to be really interesting to see who gets him.
Yeah. I mean, it's like NBA level hype. Like you just don't see this in hockey.
Yeah, it's like when King James came out, right? Yeah. It's like it literally feels like that.
Yeah, it's insane. But we'll get into today's slate. I'll just jump right into it. First game I got here, Las Vegas Golden Knights visiting the Florida Panthers. Vegas won 3 games in a row at home. Now they hit a road trip. They got 5 games on the road. 8 of their next 10 are going to be on the road, and that's not what you want to see when you are tied for first in the West with the Kings. So they're going to have to do some damage on this road trip to hold that number 1 spot in the West. As for Florida, they're still making a push for the wild card. They're not out of it. While they haven't been winning as many games as they like, their defense has looked incredible, holding opponents to like 2 goals or less in like almost all of these previous 5 games. So they're lethal. Bob's in net, looking like Hill will go for Vegas, but that's not confirmed. With the Panthers at home, Nate, you liking them, or are you just sticking with the Red Hot Knights?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of give a slight lean to the Knights. I still don't think the Knights are a very good hockey team, but numbers-wise, they've been great defensively. Even their expected goals is second in the league on the road. So it doesn't bode very well. I'm surprised this total is at 6.5, to be honest with you. I like the under here from DFS perspective. Not too much interest here on the 10-game slate. I mean, name recognition wise, I think they're still going to draw some pretty ownership here, especially with the 6.5 total. Pretty close spread. I actually the numbers wise favor Vegas in this one, even the expected goals against and the underlying metric shots against. They shoot a ton on the road. Florida gives up a ton of shots, has a bad penalty kill, give up a decent amount of high danger chances, and Vegas is playing better than Florida is, and that's just how it goes right now. So I do give the side to Vegas. Let me pull up these lines a little bit here. I don't have a ton of interest, like I said, in this game, but if you were to go here, I would go to some of the cheap pieces. I really like Vegas too here. Riley Smith and Chandler Stevenson in particular are two. Obviously, Chandler Stevenson's not on that second line, but he does share top power play run with Riley Smith against a bad penalty kill. And Amdio, I think Mike Amdio is how you pronounce it, but he's cheap as well. Top power play run there. So I would really focus on those guys. And then I always got to go back to my guy, Shea Theodore. I've been riding this dude. He's been absolutely on fire. I think you can go right back to him again. Gets that top power play run over Pietrangelo. So I like that quite a bit. On the Panthers side, not a ton of interest, to be honest with you. E2 is pretty much my only interest. He's just value. He's under 4K. So if you're looking for that, but I'm definitely on Vegas here and probably don't get to very much, if any, of this game in my build tonight. So that's where I'm at.
Did you open this by saying you don't think Vegas is that good of a team?
Yeah, I did. I don't think they're that good of a hockey team.
Like No,
Well, to be fair, Zargo, you really do love the Knights.
I do.
Yeah, you have a Knights poster on your bathroom ceiling and above your bed. So I mean, we can't. You got to take that with a grain of salt. Whatever you're saying over Vegas, but
I mean, I got a Vegas Knights coaster right here. Like I do. I really like this team, but I don't know how you can say the number one team in the West isn't that good. Like you can say they're overrated. What's your outlook for this team? Like, what do you think they're going to do in the playoffs? You're going to be one and done?
bounce second round. I don't see them getting.
I don't think they're going to get out of the first round, Zargo.
I don't see them getting past the second round, and quite frankly, I do think they get bounced in the first round.
And here, I'll tell you why I say that is I don't think they have the goaltending to compete in the playoffs.
The only thing I will say to that is how the standings currently sit. Because if they got to face like Colorado first round, that's just not fair. Like Colorado is not an 8th seed, right? As they start to get healthy, they're going to get on a roll, and that's like, wow, interesting. Yeah. We'll revisit this in playoff times. I didn't know you were that low on the Knights, but regardless, Matty Ice, what are your thoughts on this Vegas squad?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Vegas is terrible. I don't think they're a great hockey team. They're kind of lucky. They're out in that Pacific Division, and they get to play a lot of really bad teams. They're playing the Sharks, they're playing the Ducks, they're playing the Canucks, they're playing the Flames, who I've said have been shit all year long. Like I've just mentioned, I think goaltending is going to hinder them in the playoffs. They play a playoff style hockey, a very gritty, grimy type style game. And they're always a tough matchup. But when you get to the playoffs, I think goaltending is going to be so important. Now, does Logan Thompson come back, and is he elite? I don't know. But if you're going into the playoffs with Aiden Hill and Jonathan Quick, no offense to Jonathan Quick, Stanley Cup champ, but he ain't been good. When the team you've been with for 15 years says, all right, we're going to move on, it's time to move on. But from a DFS standpoint in this game, and I wrote up in the playbook, I agree with Nades. I don't love this game. I like the under in this one. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just don't love it. I think if you're an MME guy, you could take some shots at a Chucky or an Eichel or something like that. But I think my favorite play from this game might be Riley Smith. I think his speed could cause an issue for some of these cats here. Obviously, I think the Barkov E2 line is going to take Eichel's line. So I think Wild Bill and Riley Smith end up on Sam Bennett's line, which is fine. Sam Bennett's known to be a little bit leaky on the defensive end here, and I think Smith's speed can really open up the ice here for the Knights. I do like Chandler Stevenson at 4,200. As Nate's mentioned, he's getting that top power play around. He sees strong minutes. Guys tend to do well against Florida, who have a nose for the front of the net, and Chandler certainly does. I like Shea Theodore here. I think you play him. It's weird. So I put him in the playbook because I think he has a high ceiling, and he does extremely well in chase scripts. So it's like I would play Pietrangelo if you think the Knights are winning this game, and then I would go to Theo if you think the Knights are chasing. But I lean the under here. I don't love this from a DFS perspective. I don't know if I land on anybody, but if I do, I think it would be Riley Smith because I think the game style suits him.
Fair enough. You guys make some valid points. Hard to argue with the defensive aspect of this team. As we've seen season after season with the Oilers and the Maple Leafs, these high-scoring teams just don't fare well in the playoffs. So I do give you that. Bet I wanted to call out, my favorite bet of this game is Jack Eichel, over 3.5 shots on goal, paying out at plus 108. He had no shots last game, which was strange because he averaged at least 4 goals. He averaged 4 goals over his last 5 games. I think he'll pop off tonight. If you want to really get crazy, plus 180 is a goal scorer. Last time he faced Florida, he had 1 goal on 10 shots. So I think shot prop's fantastic. If you want to sprinkle a little on that anytime goal, I wouldn't blame you. Anything else before we move on?
Good. Yeah, let's roll.
All right, cool. Philadelphia Flyers taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay is one of the many heavy favorites on today's slate. Tampa coming alive, really starting to make a push in the standings. Love to see it, but will they steamroll Tampa tonight? Matty Ice, I know you had some good numbers on this one.
Yeah, I mean this is a really interesting game because the Bolts have been going through a little bit of a funk here. You had Cooper, Bench, and Point, Stammer, and Kucherov on Saturday for the whole third period. We've seen some really bizarre stuff coming out of Tampa, and now they're losing Victor Hedman. One thing I will say here is Tampa's a proven, hardened Stanley Cup champion. All teams go through bad runs. We see it with everybody. Nobody's immune to that. I fully expect the Lightning to show up tonight and have a strong game. I think my favorite play from this game is Steven Stamkos. Over his career, he's played 39 games against the Flyers. He has 27 goals and 25 assists. He has absolutely dominated them over his career. Obviously, Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov on the same line as Stammer. They've been absolutely fantastic on home ice this year. I know I sound like a broken record. I've brought that up numerous times. And then I think you have to consider Mikhail Sergachev tonight with Hedman out. He's going to run that top power play. He's obviously the most skilled defenseman they have left right now. I would expect him to see big minutes. On the Flyer side, me and Nate's boy, Owen Tippett, if you want to take a run back or something like that, I'm not sure I get there today with his price. But I like the Bolts to bounce back here. Vasilevsky's going to be in net. He makes a fine option, cash, single entry, something like that, where you're really just looking for more than the win, because I do worry about shot volume for him, in GPPs. So I like the Bolts to bounce back here after a very tumultuous weekend. So Steven Stamkos, my favorite play, followed by Sergachev.
Right on. Nate's 5. Tampa Bay's lost 5 in a row. Does it become 6 tonight, or do they bounce back against a not very good Philly team?
Yeah, I mean, unless Carter Hart literally stands on his head like a top, it's going to be tough here for them to compete with this Tampa squad. I think this is a great bounce back spot here. I mean, Tampa didn't lose to bad teams, right? They were in Pittsburgh. They played Florida at home and got punched in the mouth. That was costly on the DFS side. Then they played Pittsburgh at home, lost a barn burner there, 5-4. They went into Buffalo, into Carolina, which are two not very easy places to play. And I mean, when Buffalo can dictate matchups and get Tage and Skinner and those guys on a favorable matchup, it's a tough place to play. Lost 5-3, and then obviously got shut out against Carolina. But anyone playing Carolina in Carolina doesn't bode very well usually. Very, very good hockey team, very good defensive hockey team. And when they get the line advantage on home ice, definitely bodes well. So they've gone through a little bit of a gauntlet schedule here as of late. I do think they come bouncing back big. I love that top line, top power play. They all correlate fully. It's a great power play matchup here for Tampa Bay. And reading my sheet diagonal here, my matchup sheet that I post for the members, pretty much every diagonal metric in Tampa's favor here is green. So that usually bodes pretty well for fantasy purposes, unless the numbers just don't work, and the numbers have been working pretty good as of late. So I do think Tampa makes a lot of sense here. I haven't built any teams yet. They are pretty expensive, but there are some cheap options that we'll talk about in some games later, like the Blues and things like that you could fill in. And then on the Philly side, our guy Owen Tippett, averaging right around 5 shots per game. He's been good. And the Bolts, as of the last 5, obviously partly due to that schedule, have been giving up quite a bit of points to wingers in terms of fantasy points. So I definitely think they make some sense here. But my main interest is definitely Tampa, top power play, Kucherov, Stammer there, Braden Point. And if you really want to fire again, a guy like Ross Colton, always on home ice, 10 shots over his last 5 games with a goal. Sees right around 13 to 14 minutes of time, which isn't a lot of ice time, but he should have a favorable depth matchup here against Philly. And I saw our guy, We the People, talking about Scott Lawton. I cored him the other night whether it was the Rangers or Detroit, had two very good games. I'm off of Scott here. I don't think I go back to him, but I wouldn't fault anyone. I just don't want to pay $5K for Scott Laughton against the Bolts, where I think the Bolts piss pound them here as a get right spot heading into the home stretch here, heading into the playoffs. So that's where I'm at.
Right on. I like it. My favorite play on this one is Carter Hart under 28.5 saves, paying out -106. Hart has topped that number just once in his last 7 games. Playing a Tampa team that's looking to get some frustration out. Say they put 30, 31 shots on net. I don't think Hart will even stop 27 of them. So pretty safe play. Good way to go there. And yeah, I mean, I got a hard time not taking the puck line for Tampa. We keep it moving. Columbus Blue Jackets visiting the Pittsburgh Penguins. Columbus, we talked about at the top of the show, how horrible they've been. Pittsburgh, man, this team just doesn't die. They're clinging on to that final playoff spot. They'd won 4 games in a row before going to Florida. Now they head back home for an easy game against Columbus. Seems pretty straightforward. Again, one of the many heavy favorites on the night. Any reason to second guess this one, Nathan?
Yeah. Only reason I think you can is because every time the Pens are chalk, it usually blows up in your face and you're coughing for a while. But I do think this is a very good spot. Pittsburgh has won the last 6 games against Columbus by a pretty significant goal margin in each of those games. Obviously, this year, their last game was 4-1 in Pittsburgh's favor. One of my favorite plays on the slate is Jake the Snake Gunsel here. Absolutely elite matchup. Columbus has been awful against wings over the last 5 games. And Jake I've talked about it before. He's just not having the puck luck right now. I do think that changes here, and I definitely can see him scoring at least one here against these Blue Jackets. And he's 7,300. I think he's a upper 7K player, especially in a matchup like this. So you're getting a little bit of a discount there. Obviously, you can always play a guy like Sid the Kid and Sidney Crosby has elite history as well against Columbus. And you can pair that whole lineup together. I do think that top line does get quite a bit of ownership here, but for good reasons. It is Columbus. I would stick more to full strength here. Columbus does have a pretty good penalty kill. And they limit, or not a pretty good penalty. They have a bad penalty kill, but they do limit penalties. But the way the officiating has gone lately, I don't care how good you are limiting penalties. They've been just calling penalties left and right, especially in Detroit games and things like that. So if you do put this this power play on the ice for Pittsburgh, I do think they can pot a couple here because Columbus does operate right around a 70% PK kill. Overall, definitely on the Pens. Columbus, I think you can take some shots at these Columbus guys just because Pittsburgh games tend to shoot a little bit because they don't play a lot of defense, especially that Malkin line. Whoever sees that Malkin line, I don't know if it's going to be Boone Jenner, Gaudreau, and Marchenko. I'm assuming Sid probably takes that line. So you can find some value with these Columbus pieces. I know Matty broke this down, so maybe he's got some of the Columbus pieces that he's looking at. But numbers-wise, Pittsburgh is pretty leaky as well. So I do think we see a decent amount of goals in this game.
Yeah. I think the over is a solid play for sure. I'm with We the People on Zucker, at least on the betting side. For him to score a point is plus 104. It's not asking much, considering he's had 4 points over his last 4 games. Really starting to become a productive member of this Pittsburgh offense. So I think it's a solid way to go. But Matty Ice, what do you have on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great spot for the Pens, and they'll probably be in my cash build, but I'm looking at some of the opto runs here, and it's slamming Pittsburgh, and I hate chalk Pittsburgh. There are a million teams I would rather play than the chalk Pittsburgh Penguins. So I'm not naive enough to think that they can't break the slate. So like I said, I'll probably have Sid and Jake the Snake in my cash build. It's a great matchup. I can't get behind this Pens team. I don't think they're good. A couple weeks back, I thought they were going to make a push, and I've actually watched 4 or 5 of their games over the last 2 weeks. I just don't think they're a good squad. I don't. I think they have finally reached the plateau, for this squad. Even if they make the playoffs, I don't see them making a run. Sid and Gensel, they're my two favorites. Obviously Malkin would be the pivot off Sid, and if I was gonna pivot off Jake, I would probably go to Zucker. For much cheaper. He's been fantastic all year long. On the Columbus side, they have a bunch of cheap guys, so I think Boone gets a pretty tough matchup here actually tonight, and I don't think I want to pay upwards of over $6,000 for Boone Jenner tonight. I'd probably go back to that second line of Roslovic, Johnson, and Line. Line's been heating up a little bit. Roslovic's cheap. So's Ken Johnson. They're both getting top 6 minutes and power play run. It's interesting. I was kind of digging into this. Even like Merz Lincoln's, the goalie for the Jackets, he's been better on the road this year. Like, I just don't mind getting beat by the Penguins. If the Penguins beat me, then so be it. Like, how many winners have Pittsburgh been in this year? Not many, because they haven't been good. So if the Penguins are going to be chalk, like I said, I'll play them in cash, single entry, something like that. But if they beat me in a big GPP, then so be it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, like I kind of said, man, they're just a team that doesn't really die, so you certainly can't count them out, especially in the regular season. But I agree, certainly a bleak outlook in the playoffs because they're not catching the Rangers, so they're taking a wild card slot. And then it's like, okay, what? You get to take on for the honors to get swept by Carolina or Boston. So certainly a good team to bet on again in the regular season. But, yeah, it's about as good as it's going to get for Pittsburgh. Nate's find anything to add?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. In my opto runs, Pittsburgh's right now the fourth highest popping stack that's popping. I'll talk about the other ones when we get to those games. So, yeah, they're definitely going to get quite a bit of ownership. I haven't ran it based off of just the standard model numbers. I got my model numbers in there, and they're definitely up there. So, like I said when I started the breakdown, chalk Pittsburgh never bodes very well for me. So, if you don't see them in my core, you might want to jump on because they'll probably bury me. But I'm a one lineup guy tonight, and they're definitely not going to make my team likely.
Can't argue. We keep moving. A little bit more of an even matchup. We got the Toronto Maple Leafs visiting the New Jersey Devils. And my takes beginning this hour, I really thought the Devils were underrated. I really thought the second half, the more difficult schedule, was going to show you what this team was. I like squatting on a take, so I'm still going to ride it, but I understand I'm starting to look like an idiot the more I fade this New Jersey team. They are a slight favorite at home today, taking on Toronto. No matter where you look at this, though, going to be a tough battle. Samsonov and Vanacek in net. What direction are you going, Natify?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't have a ton of interest in this game. I think it's a very, very good hockey game.
Yep.
But at these price tags, woof, these guys are all expensive. And usually, I mean, when you get star studs going against each other, it goes one of two ways, and typically it tends to go under, I think. I just don't love this spot. Timo Meier obviously scored last game, but that was against Arizona. I'm not sure what line takes Matthews' line, but whatever line doesn't, I do have.
It'll be Nico.
Nico? Okay, yeah. So I do have a decent amount of interest then in that fact that in Jesper Bratt, Jack Hughes, and Timo Meier. But man, you got to take out a second mortgage to play that line against these Leafs here. I mean, they're all expensive. Timo's over 8K, Jack's over 8K, almost approaching 9K. Jesper Bratt, one guy. I mean, Dawson Mercer, you can just play this dude every freaking night. His price tag just doesn't move at all. He's finally up to 5K. But the dude's averaging over 20 DraftKings points per game over his last 5. The dude just continues to produce. He does get power play run. I don't know if I hop on. I've been playing him quite a bit, so it's not that I'm hopping on the ship if I play him again here tonight. But if you haven't been playing him, I probably want to hop on. But it's hard to argue with his production. I mean, the dude just he just produces, and he's averaging right around 4 shots per game. He's at 5K flat. I think that's a pretty solid value play there. Outside of that, I don't have a ton of interest. I think I'm just going to watch this game and not have DFS plays in it, but maybe Matty has a lean in this one. I just think it's a better real life game than a DFS game.
Typically how it goes.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think this is going to be a great hockey game. Even with auto parts and Johnny Tavares sitting in this one, but we've seen this with Toronto all year. They had Matthews out for a while. Yeah, I don't care what anybody says. They're a decent defensive hockey team, and the numbers show it. And it's the same thing on the other side. Prices for me here are just too high. If you want to start a build with Auston Matthews, I'm not going to tell you no. He's Auston Matthews. If you want to start a build with Timo Meier, by all means, go for it. But it's not something I'm going to do here. I don't love a ton here. I put Mercer in the playbook. He's just been absolutely nuking everyone and anyone who's even been close to him. One value piece that I was talking about this morning that I'll mention here is Sam Lafferty for Toronto. He's actually a winger on DraftKings, and that's one of the only reasons why I like him. He's going to move up and center that second line for Toronto tonight. He's gonna get power play and PK run. Center position's always so valuable for me on DraftKings. So I like being able to get another center in a wing spot. He's been better on the road. He does have 4 shorthanded goals on the road this season. I think he's a pretty solid player. He's just with O'Reilly and Tavares out, he's going to be thrust into a 15 to 18 minute, game tonight, and there's just no way around it. And he has a threat to score shorthanded. So for $2,900, I wouldn't mind taking a shot at him. And I actually put him in the value section in the playbook today. But I like the under here. I don't know that anybody out of Lafferty at play, and I probably just end up watching this game.
Yeah, I can't really argue with it. I mean, I looked at it a couple different ways. It is hard to make a pick because you either, go chalky with the Devils and you say, man, those lines are all chopped up. Toronto's not going to find their groove. That's a reasonable argument. But then again, Toronto comes out, smokes them. Sometimes you see when things get different, kind of the change is good for the guys. They light it up. So I don't have a play here either. Just sit back, relax, and watch a great hockey game because that's for sure what we're going to get. So we'll push on. Buffalo Sabres visiting the New York Islanders. Islander squad finally starting to come alive. That Horvat effect definitely coming into play. They are climbing the standings. While I personally don't think they'll get out of the wild card, that's a tough mountain to climb. Anything can happen. Solid favorite today. I do believe. Do you know who's in net?
I would guess Sorokin.
Yeah, unconfirmed. Sorokin and Comrie. Unconfirmed. Those are expected, though. Personally, though, I'm riding with the Islanders at home, especially if Sorokin's in net. That 60-minute line, great value at -113. So that's kind of direction I'm going in that. But Matty Ice, what do you have on this one?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that in regulation there, Zargo, because I actually had that written down. I think that's actually a great bet today.
Thank you.
Islanders, I like the Islanders here. The Opto seems to be pushing them quite a bit, which is bizarre because it never really pushes them. But with Buffalo on a back-to-back, I can see why it is. Bo Horvat, Anders Lee, obviously in a great spot here. I would fully expect the Nelson, Palmieri, Parisi line to take on Tage tonight. Pierre Engvall is very cheap. He's going to be skating on that right wing with Anders and Bo. I believe he's around 3,300. Let me double check here. Engvall, 3,200. He's not going to get any power play time, but he played his first game with them on Saturday, and he got 17 minutes. He's very good defensively, so if you think the Islanders are going to be up in this game, which we do, I think he makes a ton of sense. Obviously, on the Sabres side, the Sabres can score goals, but the Islanders are still so good defensively, and Sorokin has been fantastic in net that I can't bring myself to pay up for Tage or Skinner or Dahlin. So, if you end up wanting to, do a hedge build or, just looking for a GPP dart, I know Nate's broke this down. It would have to be somebody like, Cousins or Olofsson or Vinny, who's been running on that in the top 6 and getting some power play run. So I like the Islanders here, specifically Horvat, Lee, and Engvall. I don't think I will probably end up with any Sabres in my lineup tonight.
Right on. Nadesify, what do you have on this one?
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with him. This line's a little fishy to me, I think. Minus 165 for the Islanders. I think they should be up over 200 something with the Sabres on a back-to-back and how awful the Sabres have been on the road. They should have easily lost that game last night, 5-2. One goal got called back. They hit a couple posts for Edmonton, which was hurtful. I was all aboard the Edmonton train. Still got the Jesus double dong there, but could have been a lot better night than what it was. Had some of those goals, but I do think the Islanders can get a decent amount of goals here, 3, 4, maybe 5 here. But what I'm struggling with is my model. 60% of my stacks pumped out Islanders stacks, and that's a little bit scary to me because that never happens. And I'm sure the Islanders are going to draw quite a bit of ownership just based on that. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Maybe I look for a way to play them differently than what the field. I see a lot of double center builds with Brock and Bo. I do have some interest in Kyle Palmieri as well. 3,800. He's cheap. He gets that top power play. I know that they're gonna. That line's likely gonna grab the Tage line, but he does get power play run as well in a pretty good power play matchup. I mean, Buffalo operates right around 74% on the penalty kill, and the Islanders have a good power play unit. Obviously, that helps when you bring a guy like Bo Horvat to town and throw him on that top power play. So, yeah, I have quite a bit of interest in these Islanders, but you do have to figure out how you're going to play them. It seems like the chalk pairing right now is Islanders and Kraken, who we're going to talk about later. And then
I saw a lot of Nelson and Horvat builds.
Yeah. There are a lot of them are going double center. So I wouldn't go double center if I'm going Islanders. I probably wouldn't pair them with the Kraken or Pittsburgh. I'm seeing a lot of that, a lot of those value Pittsburgh guys sliding in there, and then Blues as well. The value Blues guys that are playing the Yotes. We'll talk about that later. But I do think the Islanders make quite a bit of sense. I have interest in Horvat, Anders Lee are my main interests. And then you can throw a guy like Kyle Palmieri in there on that power play as well to get a little cross correlation there. And then, yeah, I mean, Matty nailed it. I wrote up 4 dudes for Buffalo in the playbook, and he hit on 3 of them. Victor Olofsson, you're straight goal hunting with him, gets top power play run, 4,500. He's always a threat to score. When he touches the puck, he just fires it, gets that top power play run.
He is on a long goalless drought like Svechnikov was, though. I don't think he's scored since December.
Yeah, it's been a while, but you can always play him. My main interest is Vinny Hinostroza. If I'm going to a Buffalo piece, he's been good. Had a goal last game against the Islanders. He's 2,600, so it doesn't take much for him to pay that off as a one-off. And he's on that second line, which should see right around 13, 14 minutes of ice time. Or a guy like Dylan Cousins on that same line. He scored last night. He's coming off back-to-back good games. 5,300 still fair price tag. I don't think I pay up for Skinner or Tage at all in this matchup. Islanders on home ice are they're a solid defensive hockey team, and I think the Islanders handle them pretty easily here. And I'm kind of shocked by this Vegas line. So maybe that means that Buffalo's going to come in and slack them like.
It's because they see the Sabres away record, and I see them talking about it on YouTube. The Sabres are 19-9 on the road. I don't care. They beat some shit teams on the road. The Islanders are good defensively. If you're literally putting your hard-earned money on the Sabres tonight, just quit.
Yeah, I mean, metrics-wise, the Sabres are second in the entire league on expected goals against. So they've had very, very good puck luck on part of that reason on the road. I mean, their expected goals against is over 4 goals per game. And you give that to Brock Nelson, Anders Lee, Bo Horvat, Noah Dobson, who I didn't call out, but he's in a very good matchup here as well. 5,400, I think. I put him in the playbook as one of the top D-men on the slate. it's not going to bode very well, especially with the Sabres on a back-to-back with travel. So that's another bet for you guys if you're bettors. Take the Islanders first period puck line, and you can even add that first period over 1.5 goals. I think both of those are pretty good. Anytime Tage Thompson's on the ice, he can score no matter who it's against. So Islanders 2-1 first period, you cash that bet and you cash the over, and you're swimming in cash.
Can't argue with it. Got some disagreements in the chat, but we'll just see how it plays out tonight and come back on Thursday and you can do your victory lap, or we'll just let you know we're the experts for a reason. Circling back, though, Carolina at Montreal. Depending on when you looked at the lines, the heaviest favorite of the night is Carolina. They have dominated Montreal of late. I mean, they don't just win. They win ugly when they face the Canadiens. Don't really see any reason for that to change. Talk about all the time how it's impossible to play this team. But, Nathan Fire, did you find a way to fit him into your lineup, or are you just staying away as you sometimes do with this Carolina squad?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a good spot for Carolina. They shellacked the same Habs squad earlier this year, 6-2. With the addition of Gospeser there from Arizona, I think he's 5,400. He's an all right play. It's not a great matchup. Montreal is actually pretty good against D-men. Not that that's the end-all be-all, but 5,400 and not the best matchup. Don't know if I get there, but he does have 16.85 fantasy points per game over his last 4 games. So he's playing good hockey. Sebastian Aho at 6,800, I think, is that whole top line is definitely in play for me with Carolina. If you're playing Carolina, you kind of just got to hope and pray that the scoring is condensed for once. And we've seen the dude that shipped the 150K last time I talked on Carolina when the 444 contest was out, 150K to first. He full stacked Carolina won, and they printed, and they didn't have a lot of ownership because everyone's kind of caught on by now, right? Everyone on Carolina is a threat to score. But I do think this top line makes some sense. They all have very good history as well against Montreal with Svechnikov, Aho, and Seth Jarvis. I think you can make a case to play them. I don't know if I get to Martin Nikas here. He's been good. He doesn't have the greatest history against Montreal. So I don't love him. I much prefer that top line if I'm playing them. I don't know if they're going to make my team yet. Typically I don't stack Carolina too much just because every time I do, it's the depth guys that score, or Brady Shea double dong as a D-man, or one of those guys just finds a way. Jacob Slavin somehow goes out there and scores the goals. But definitely a great spot for Carolina. Think Carolina should win this one pretty easily, even being on the road. But they are pretty heavy road favorites. I mean, minus 330 on the road is pretty telling on how bad this Habs squad is. But definitely a good spot for them. Not a ton of interest, to be honest, just because scoring is tough to pinpoint with these Hurricanes for sure.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. There's just no value to be had here, especially on the betting side, right? Like, I would be okay betting Carolina minus 2.5, but it's only paying out plus 124. It's kind of like taking McDavid and even money on the goal score. Is it a solid bet if we're just saying yes or no? Sure, but I'm not risking that at a plus 124 payout. So nothing much for me, except I expect pretty much demolishment of the Habs. Matty Ice, what do you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's a smash spot for the Canes. I mean, Montreal's, they've been kind of weird. They've been kind of hit or miss. I got to give them a little bit of credit. The guys that have been there who aren't hurt are certainly, they play hard for St. Louis. But I mean, the Canes are just a wagon. It's too much for them. Aho and Svech is where you should probably start. I'm a little bit different than Nades. I think Nakas is my favorite play in this game. More just due to a price point, and with Montreal getting last change, I would assume that Suzuki line takes the top line, and Nakas should end up I would assume on Drouin's line here. But I like Marty Necas. Aho and Svech are fine. Brent Burns is fine. that Burns is back on that top power play now. They got Ghost on the second unit. But this team's just so deep, and I just don't play enough builds. If I was an MME guy, I would literally have a Canes build with all 4 of these damn lines tonight. that like if I was a 150 guy, that's literally what I would do. I would have an Aho line, Kotkaniemi, Stahl, Stasny, and then just switch your other studs. But I run 3 to 5 builds a night. I don't feel like playing line roulette with the Canes here. I don't see any value on the betting side either. Very similar to you, Zargo. I just don't see it here. I'm not going to lay that kind of money on a money line, on the Canes. Very similar to like when you see in baseball, right? A shit pitcher comes out and throws a gem. If Jake Allen went out there and put up 40 saves the next morning, I would go, I'm not real surprised. I've seen Jake Allen do it before. So not my favorite game from a DFS standpoint. If I was playing somebody, it would be Marty Nakis.
Right on. Can't disagree. Glad we're all on the same page there. But Matty, I'll toss it right back to you. Calgary at Minnesota. Your squad taking on a team you love to hate on, and you're not wrong for hating on them. So let us know what you have on this one.
Minnesota's been playing damn well. I just don't think the Flames are a good squad. I'm not coming off that hill. I've been on that hill since the beginning of the year. Though I will say, and we were talking about this pre-show, this Vegas line has me slightly concerned, and it was the same thing I mentioned yesterday when they were in Dallas. The one thing I will say about Calgary is they are in desperate times right now. They need wins. I'm gonna lean the Wild here. We're 21-10 at home. We're 8-1-1 in our last 10 games. From a DFS perspective, this isn't a sexy game. I expect this to be a grinder. On home ice, you can always throw a one-off at Krill the Thrill, if you want. But I'm not looking to prioritize any of these Wild players. I think the Wild win. Same thing goes for Calgary. The one guy I might end up in my lineup for the Wild is maybe John Klingberg, and that's strictly just due to price. If I land in that range, I found myself landing in that 35 to $4 grand range quite a bit. He's going to run that top power play. He's not expensive. He looked pretty good in that first game against the Flames a couple days ago, but not a sexy game from a DFS standpoint. When I looked this morning, the total was 5.5. I don't know if it's moved off that, but pretty easy pass for me here with the way my boys are playing right now. They're just grinding out wins.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been really impressive to watch. You've been right about them all season. I'm not typically one to accuse someone of being a homer just because when you're watching every game, you got the insight. You know a little more than someone who's watching the box scores and then watching game periodically. They have finally come alive. They put it together, climbing the standings, just 3 games behind Dallas. So what's your outlook for this team this season? I don't want to sound like, but they play a style of game that's conducive to playoff hockey. Very similar absolutely.
to what that like I was saying with Vegas. The difference between us and Vegas is I think we have the goaltending. I mean, Gustafson's been absolutely fantastic. If he's not the highest owned goalie on this slate, I would be absolutely shocked. We've been playing well with honestly, in my opinion, our best D-men out of the lineup. I think Jonas Brodin is one of the most underrated D-men in all of hockey. And then, we made some nice moves. Oscar Sundqvist is a Stanley Cup winning player. He's a big dude who's going to create room in front of the net. We got Marcus Johansson, who, I've never really followed very close, but damn, is he a smooth skater. He made some really nice plays in that Calgary game. And then outside of Klingberg, who, you need a guy to run the top power play, and Addy's got a lot of talent. He's just not ready for that yet. You can see it. He makes a lot of mistakes. But my favorite move we made, the guy's not even in the lineup, is Gustav Nyquist. I think Nyquist is a hell of a player. He's incredibly skilled. I think he's one of the better shorthanded penalty killers in the league, and he's always a threat to score. Everybody was complaining, the Wild took him because they can put him on long-term IR. Well, we didn't do that. Billy made sure we had enough cap space so we can't get caught in that mess with the NHL. I think he's going to be a really valuable piece when we get to the playoffs.
Well, what's your outlook? What's What's successful? What's a failure of a season for the Wild at this point?
If they don't get to the second round, I would be disappointed. I think they have the ability to get there. I think the West is wide open. I want to see how they mesh over the next couple weeks. It's hard to say when you get, because we traded for 4 or 5 guys. It's tough to say where a team's going to be in 2 weeks. Sometimes chemistry just doesn't work. Look at what's going on in Calgary. They bring in Kadri, they got Huberdeau, and Huber's out there doing 22-minute YMCA free skates. Like, I want to see what's happening. But this team plays defensive hockey. They're very strong on the puck. If they gel well together, there's no reason why they couldn't even get to the conference finals. The big question mark in the room is Vegas. Or it's not Vegas. It's Colorado. Are they going to get Landeskog back? Are they going to get healthy? We saw this morning some news from out of Colorado that Landeskog's not even skating yet. So, I think the West is wide open, but as much as I want to be really excited for my boys, I'm not going to, jump off a cliff yet.
All right. Fair enough. Nate, if you agree with that analysis?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're kind of in the right situation, right? West is wide open, especially if Colorado doesn't get Skog back, which sounds like that's the rumor right now is Skog's not going to be back. That definitely helps the West, other teams, because I think if Colorado is healthy, they're far and away the best team in the West by far. So should be interesting. I do like the moves the Wild made. As far as this game goes tonight, I got to hit on We the People. Gus is a lock at goalie. Personally, I don't think anyone's a lock at goalie, especially when it's the highest owned goalie on the slate. But yeah, it is a very good spot. I do think Wild win. Calgary does fire the puck 4th most on the road, so the saves upside should be there. But something with this line, only minus 145 with the Flames on a back-to-back. Something seems a little fishy, like Matty noted. So I don't know if typically I don't like paying for the chalkiest goalie on the slate. But yeah, he's certainly a great goalie. There's a reason he's chalk. Typically I tend not to play chalk goalies because it's one of the most high variance, kind of like the chalkiest. It's different than the chalkiest pitcher in baseball, right? There's a lot more metrics that go into baseball playing pitchers. I kind of look at the goalie as a pitcher if you're building an MLB team. But only issue is goalie has a lot more variance than a pitcher does. So that's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, certainly your cash goalie tonight is Gustav. Gus Bus is like we like to call him. As far as DFS, 5.5 total on a 10-game slate, I think you can pretty easily cross this one off. Ryan Hartman, I did write up in the playbook. He's still cheap. He's playing great hockey right now, skating next to Krill the Thrill, who gives him open looks. So I think you can if you land him as a last piece, I think it's fine. I don't think you need to rebuild. And then obviously Krill the Thrill, always a threat anytime to pot.
It's interesting when I think one of the highest owned guys in the slate is going to be a goalie. I mean, if you are into game theory, which a lot of guys are, fading Gustafsson tonight, even coming from a Wild fan, is very, very intriguing if you think you can find somebody else with upside, because I 100% believe he's going to be the highest owned goalie by a bunch.
Yeah, I mean, just look at his game logs. I mean, the dude's been on an absolute tear. Can he keep it up? I hope so for the sake of our team. But regression has to be coming. I mean, these dudes, a goalie is a tough position to play, and especially when you're getting a team like Calgary who needs desperate wins right now and does still have some talent. I mean, you still have Kadri on the ice. You still have these other guys that can score. Even that third line with Calgary, that entire third line, every time they touch the puck, they just fire it. Maybe Gus Bus has a down night, and I'm probably going to fade him just because that's just how I play. I'm a 1 lineup, 2 lineup kind of guy. And typically I try to differentiate a little bit at goalie and embrace the variance. But yeah,
he's actually been better on the road too. And both of his shutouts this year have come on the road, not on home ice.
Yeah. So, I mean, certainly a great play. But yeah, highest on goalie by far, probably one of the chalkiest, if not the chalkiest player on the slate. I will, if he beats me, he beats me. But typically you can get away with, I mean, I won't be surprised to see like a Jake Allen outscore Gustav tonight, even in a loss, just from saves upside alone. So
I think this game's gonna be really telling to where the Wild are at. As a Minnesota fan, these are games you expect the Wild to lose that we've seen in years past. Are they over the hump? Are they gonna, this is a game they should win on home ice. It's gonna be interesting to watch. I'm excited to watch it tonight.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. 3 games left on the slate. We'll try to push through here as quickly as we can. San Jose Sharks visiting the Avalanche. Currently, the Avalanche are the heaviest favorite on the slate. Just talked about them a little bit. They're making their push up the standings. Games like this, they need to win. San Jose without Meyer, hung on to Carlson. They are well in the tankathon. Team you don't really talk about too much when discussing Bedard, but they're right there in the battle. So being at Ball Arena, any love for the Sharks, Matty Ice?
Yeah, I'm gonna be off the Sharks here. I think if you need, if you're looking for like a value D man or something, it looks like McDonald's gonna sit. So a Matt Benning at 2,800 can certainly get you there just on blocks, or like a Velasic or something like that. But I think this is a great spot for the Avs on home ice with the Sharks on the back-to-back. I love Nasty Nate and Nichushkin here. Mikko Rantanen's obviously in play. He's, in my opinion, even been better than McKinnon this year. I actually like the reason I like to have so much is actually I think this is a great spot for them 5-on-5. The Sharks actually have one of the better penalty kills in hockey, which is hard to believe. They are top 10 in the penalty on the penalty kill this year. But love Nasty Nate, love Valerie Nichushkin. Obviously, Makar's back in the lineup. He's quite spendy, so he's very similar to Mikko. GPP options for me, but I think this is a great spot for McKinnon. He knows that he's well aware. They need points. They're sitting in that second wildcard spot. I expect him to be very motivated out of the gate tonight.
Absolutely. Very similar to the Carolina game. Just no reason to think anything crazy is going to happen, but hard to find the value for sure, especially on the bet side. Nate, if I have anything you want to add, any gems you have for this game?
Yeah, I'd be scared to be the Sharks here. I do think the Avs are definitely going shark hunting here. On a 3-game losing streak, I think they try and right the ship here. And it's a great spot. I mean, the Sharks' expected goals against are almost twice as worse as their actual goals against last 5. So that regression, you have to believe is going to start trending in the other way, and that bodes well for the Avs and scoring, especially when you got guys like Mikko Rantanen, Nasty Nate, McKinnon. I love Val as well with Matty Ice, and Cale Makar. Everyone's sleeping on Cale Makar. Was very active last game, and he's a pivotal piece to this team success on the power play and full strength. He acts as a winger. He's one of those gifted D-men, kind of like an Erik Karlsson, Dougie Hamilton, kind of like those guys. I mean, they're not just out there blocking shots and stuff. They're out there trying to score the puck. I believe he's 7,500, right around mid sevens. I think that's a fine stack if you're going there. I do think the Avs kind of steamrolled this team here in a get-right spot. On the other side, don't have a ton of interest in the Sharks, especially on a back-to-back. Logan Couture, one of the only guys left on the squad after the fire sale happened. I think he makes some sense, but 5,600, I don't really want to spend up for any of these Sharks in a spot where I think they get steamrolled. So I'm not super interested in these guys. But Erik Karlsson, always got to talk about this dude. He has the upside to break any slate he's on. As a D-man, 7,500. This dude was approaching 9K for quite some time during the season. Obviously, that helped when he was skating with Timo Meier. But he's definitely firmly in play. But for me, Sharks are full fade, and I like the Avs quite a bit.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just going to toss it right back to you, though, because we're talking Blues at Coyotes, and I know there's not too many things you love more than a Coyotes team at home. As we talked about, they look a little bit different, though. So what's your plan of attack on these guys?
Yeah, I think this game shoots here. I think we see goals on both sides. I know Matty likes some of these cheap Blues. I don't mind them either. But I really love this top line for Arizona. I know they're going to take the Bobby Thomas line likely, but this top line is buzzing right now. They're playing great. Barrett Hayton, 4,100. That's too cheap for his role that he's in. top power play, top line. And Nick Schmaltz is probably my favorite play on the entire slate. The dude's got 8 points in 2 games against against the Blues this year. And I think he scores at least 1 again tonight. Benny is up and down. Benny's been absolutely terrible against Arizona, so I like that even more. And yeah, I think Arizona wins this game. I know Matty's on the other side, but I don't really care, to be honest, who wins this game. I'm not betting on the game. I'm betting on the players, and I do think there's a lot of fantasy point scoring here. The Blues are 4th in the league in expected goals against and 4th in the league in actual goals against last 5. So they're just bad. They're just bad defensively. They're giving up a ton of goals. And even if they do win this game 5-4, I feel pretty confident I can pinpoint where the scoring is going to come from Arizona. That top line has been very good. And even Valimaki, he's the lone D-man back after Ghost got shipped out and Chich is gone. And he's been thrusted into this role, and he's been producing. He's still too cheap, I think, for this role that he's in and the matchup at 4,200. So I like him quite a bit as well. And then Victor Soderstrom for Arizona as well. Back-to-back good games since the trades happened. He runs point on that second power play with Ghost and Chychrun gone. So I think he makes some sense as well at 3K. But, yeah, a lot of interest here for me. On the Blues, I do think Braden Shen has a really nice price tag. Does get top power play run as well. I put him in the playbook. And Pavel Buchnevich, I think, might be my favorite Blue. The dude is just on an absolute tear since he sat 2 games. He's a great play, I think, as well. And then Colton Parayko as well. I think Colton Parayko is really showing these Blues that, hey, you should have traded me. I have a lot of talent. You should have got something for me. And I don't think he's very happy being stuck in St. Louis. And I think he's a good player. So 4,200 as a D-man, I think he's got some upside as well, especially against the Yotes here.
Cool. Matty Ice, give me the alternative argument.
I'm actually with Nades here. I think we do see goals on both sides. I agree with Nades that I think Schmaltz is the best play for the Yotes. He's been very good at home. I can't pay the price tag on Keller. His home and road splits are very, very telling. On the road, he's got 35 points in 35 games. At home, he's got 25 and 28. The problem with the Yotes here is they have to put that Schmaltz Keller line, on Buchnevich and Kyrou. We've seen that since the first of the year. The Yotes home record is actually very good, and me and Nate talk about this all the time, and we've played a ton of them. They're 14 and 11 on home ice, but since the first of the year and the trade, the numbers are slowly regressing. I like the Blues on this one. I am not on the top line personally because I do think Keller and Schmaltz and Hayton are very strong together. I'm going to take a shot on this second line for the Blues. We have a bunch of Blues guys in our Discord, and I've been kind of reading what their coach is saying. They want to know what they have in Jakub Vrana and Kasperi Kapanen. Both of these guys are going to play a ton of minutes. Kapanen scored in back-to-back games. He's averaging just over 16 minutes of ice time. The coach mentioned that they're going to let Vrana loose tonight. He's very cheap. He's $2,800. He's also going to get second unit power play along with Kapanen. Kapanen's going to kill some penalties. I don't mind taking a shot on them as a mini in this one. Even a little mini game stack where maybe I go Kapanen, Vrana, and Schmaltz. I think Nade's nailed this one. I think there's a high probability that we see some goals on both sides. Now, obviously, if you want to play Kyrou, absolutely, the kid's an absolute beast. But I don't know that I want to pay $7,000 for him in this matchup tonight when I can get somebody who's going to get very similar minutes and who the team really wants to see what they have in. So I like both sides of this game. I do lean the Blues a little bit here. It's not a huge lean only because I've been tracking the metrics on the Yotes since the first of the year, and they've slowly and progressively got worse at home. They were very good early in the year. They beat some good teams, Boston, Toronto, Panthers. But they've also had some really bad losses to Montreal and Philly at home as well, too. So I like the Blues to win the game here, but I do like goals on both sides.
Love it. Love it. Fantastic. All right, final game. Anaheim Ducks visiting the Seattle Kraken. Thank you for sticking around. You get to hear my hot take. And it's Ducks plus 1.5. These teams have met each other 5 times before. Anaheim took 2 games in 2021, and then their previous 3 games have all been decided by a goal. Kraken are obviously the better team, but for some reason Anaheim plays them tough. Anaheim's been playing great hockey. As Nades, if I said, these young guys, they're not tanking for nothing. They want to go out there, give it their best. So give me Anaheim plus 1.5 at even money. And, man, if you really want to get crazy, probably going to sprinkle a little bit on it. Seattle Kraken to win by 1 plus 900. That's the long shot. Those are my plays. And now I'll toss it over to Nadesify to give me the DFS breakdown.
Yeah, I like this game, one-sided of this game quite a bit, to be honest with you. In terms of DFS, they are going to be chalky, second highest owned stack. My model is spitting out in SaberSim, but there's so many guys you can play for the Kraken here that I don't think ownership's going to be. I'm not signing up to play 6 Kraken or 5 Kraken. I'm just saying more secondary stacks. I like 2-3-man stacks here for them. The Ducks are just not a good hockey team. I understand the history, but both of those games were 9 goal totals this year. So I definitely like the over here as well.
Sure.
I think we see goals on both sides. And these price tags on the Kraken are just, I mean, the highest priced dude is 5,700 and Jared McCann, who's on an absolute tear. I like him quite a bit here. Matty B. I love him. I think this is a Matty B explosion spot. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name, because I butcher it every time. But 4,700 for him, top line, top power play. The game log watchers are not going to click him with a 10-foot pole, but I'll sign up for him. I think he explodes tonight. He's played great against the Ducks, and I see it continuing here tonight as well. So, yeah, I definitely like the Kraken. I wrote 5 of them up in the playbook just because I'd much rather push my chips in on the Kraken than the Ducks, who are trying to tank and get the next best thing since sliced bread in Bedard. I don't think they're going to be successful in doing so, but they're still going to try. One guy I did have interest in on Anaheim is Jacob Silfverberg. I think you can always play him. Maddie and I talk about it all the time. He's just consistent. He's always a threat to score, gets power play time, and DraftKings just never prices this dude over 4K. He's 3,500 tonight. And if we do see goals, I do think he's involved in it. The other 2 dudes I did write up is Red Rifle Vetrano. This dude has been playing great hockey all year. I don't know that I want to pay 5,300 or 5,500 for Trevor Zegras for in a game against the Kraken and spend salary on the Ducks, but those are the 3 that I have the most interest in. But yeah, I'm definitely on the Kraken side here. And one call out, Vince Dunn. I think this is a great spot for Vince Dunn. He's been a little bit quiet. He is 5K, but it's a good matchup here. Ducks aren't very good against D-men, and I don't see anyone clicking the Vince Dunn tag. And he's shown upside this year. He's definitely not my favorite D-man, but if you are loading the boat on the Kraken, I think you can definitely give him a look as well.
Matty Ice, close us out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the Kraken here. I like the top line. Obviously, I'm a Jared McCann fanboy. He's been on absolute fire. Matty Beniers, Jordan Eberle. The one thing I don't love about the Kraken is their power plays are just damn blenders. So a lot of guys like to build a correlation, and it's tough to do with them. But the top line for me for Seattle, I do like Yanni Gordy as well. They actually moved him to the top power play, and I'm a little bit different than Nate's. I actually like Justin Schultz at quite a bit of a discount to Vince Dunn. They moved him back to the top power play. I believe he's 34 or 3,500. He's not going to play those big minutes. He ain't going to play 21, 23 minutes. That's just not who he is. He's a little bit of an older guy. But we see him pop from time to time. I do think the Ducks can score here. I don't think Grubauer or especially Jones have shown that, they're fantastic in net. If I did play them, it would probably be Vetrano, only because I think the guy's just a stud, just stuck on an absolute terrible team. But the price for me is tough to swallow. You know, Simon, what is it, Bonnet or Bonnet or however the hell you pronounce his name, the defenseman for the Ducks, is one of Nade's favorite punts. You know, he's in a top 4 role there. He's going to kill some penalties and things of that sort. The one thing that scares me about this game is John Gibson. John Gibson is an absolute stud, and I will go down this road until the end of time saying he is the best player on a shit team in all of hockey. That guy must love SoCal or just or have dirt on the owner. I don't know. I can't believe he hasn't got out of Anaheim yet, but he's the one that always worries me. We've seen it before. He went into Carolina. He went into Florida, put up massive 50 save performances and wins. He's the one concern in this one. On paper, it's the Kraken, though. I'm not saying, you know, get too crazy, but like, you know, a lot of, like I said, game theory, people like to hedge. This is a game where I can see Gibson getting 40, 42 saves and, you know, being that price that he is and still being a very solid option, even in NL.
Right on. Right on. That was a great slate. Great show, boys. Do us a favor, drop us a like, and we'll get to best bets. Join us every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 Eastern, 9 a.m. Eastern. Saturday, missed the last 2 weekends, but we should be back in action this weekend. As I said, my favorite.
We are not back this weekend. It's the live final it's the DraftKings live final for.
Yeah, so Nate's is going to be gone, so no show on Saturday, but we will be here Thursday.
Correct.
I appreciate the correction, boys. No show Saturday, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 Eastern, though. You can count on us being here. That's for sure. As I said, my favorite bet, Anaheim plus 1.5. Seldom do I like the dog side of a puck line, but, I mean, I just think it's tremendous value as this game can easily go either way. Plus 1.5, paying out plus 114 on the Ducks. Natefy, what you got? Favorite bet, favorite stack, whatever you want to give the people.
Yeah, my favorite play on the slate is Nick Schmaltz. I'm going to parlay that with the Yotes money line, and you get plus 310 on DraftKings. I think the game is kind of a toss-up here, but if you're giving me a little over 3-1 on a bet there, I definitely like that, and I do think Nick Schmaltz scores for sure. He's one of my favorite wings on the entire slate, so I like that quite a bit.
Right on. I saw you give out that plus 400 winner last week, so see if we can keep it rolling. Matty Ice, what do you have?
I'm going to give you 2 today. My best bet is Vegas and Jersey. Toronto and Jersey. Under 6 and or wait, no, what I got? Vegas and Florida under 6.5. Excuse me. Vegas and Florida under 6.5, and anytime goal scorer Jakub Vrana plus 310.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, gentlemen. Was a fantastic show. Drop us a like before you exit, and we'll catch you guys on Thursday. Run Pure.